Welcome back to the Techno-Communism Conversation. I'm Yohanan Ben Zion, the voice crying out in the wilderness for a technological New Jerusalem. You might ask yourself why I'm sharing this in a group named after Norman Finkelstein, a pro-Palestine writer and activist of great renown. I think the answer is less complicated than one might imagine. What is this thing, liberation? More particularly, how does one stop the fascistic West, and most notably the United States, in the UK, in Israel, France, all of these North Atlantic fascistic powers from continuing to do things like the Gaza genocide from now until St. Smith's Day? And the answer is you can't. An individual person cannot. State actors even have relatively limited capacities here. There's a lot been written about China's growth as an economic and transcontinental power, and the end of the U.S. hegemon, the military hegemon. But I would contend that the title of this AI revolution is this necessary element. And on this Techno-Communism Conversation live stream, I often talk about building a large language model, a multi-agent system, into a decentralized autonomous organization. As you probably know, and as anyone who follows computer science at all knows, large language models have gone from being capable research assistants as they emerged in 2023 to being something more agentic, because there are open source varieties that are also highly agentic. In the course of 2025, it will be possible to build something that is an effective, super intelligent collective with what I term a proxy hive mind model, where individuals are effectively hosting large language models on computers with GPUs. There might be another way to do this with virtual GPUs. These GPU-based large language models are able to work on behalf of the users on what I call the Sleeping Beauty principle, workforce multiplier, where the people hosting will be able to steer this agentic collective toward projects of importance. And I've said that with some thousands of users, it might be possible to make a city more livable in some respect or other. With some millions of users, this workforce multiplier becomes something more like a force to be reckoned with, which might be able to leverage the influence and necessaries to stop capitalism's climate apocalypse from causing extinction or near extinction of humankind, an outcome which is all but secured, all but certain after the year 2029, according to every credible climate scientist, and made worse by technologists of the West and warmongers of the West. The environmental impact of this Gaza genocide is significant. And about a month or so ago, the head of the ostensible head, the CEO of the Palantir organization and the BlackRock organization, two extremely evil people. The Palantir organization is more relevant to technologists in a certain light, and others went to President Obama, President Biden, same difference, and demanded that no matter how unpopular it becomes, to continue to supply weapons to Israel and coordinate this genocide, that is what they must do. And of course, the United States political structures and political figures don't work for you. They work for people like the head of BlackRock. So that is what has continued to happen. And this environmental impact of this is tremendous, truly tremendous. But it's far worse than that, because the United States military-industrial complex itself is the world's worst polluter, a $1 trillion super polluter, $1 trillion a year super polluter, its only real job on the world stage is protecting other super polluters, multinational corporations, creating an inescapable regime of super pollution. Most technologists, the people who are telling you lies that advanced computing, so-called artificial intelligence, is going to lead to a solution to this problem. That's a prevailing sentiment there. These are people who work for this military-industrial complex. They are themselves military contractors, by and large, the high-profile figures in that community. Anyone telling you that the people who are not only causing capitalism's climate apocalypse, but making it so that you cannot fix any of the problems, that those people are going to themselves be the ones to fix the problems, those people are psychotic, right? But that is nearly every Westerner who believes this to be so. So it falls to us to find solutions like this, what I would consider the embodiment of ideas of the 20th century, like our Buckminster Fuller's idea of ephemeralization, the ability to do more and more with less and less until you're able to do almost everything with almost nothing. I think we're moving into a phase of history where this will be the case, and the question is that miraculous productive output going to be things like using killer robots to kill Palestine, to kill 250,000 Palestinians, as Palantir and those are doing. Or is it going to be something that benefits you? And I describe this as the difference between a bourgeois AI takeoff that accelerates, as the accelerationists will say, that accelerates the damage done to the environment and humankind, the inhumane and unsustainable economic system growing, but not benefiting anyone or even creating anything close to a remotely livable world. That's the trajectory that we're on. It shouldn't even be controversial, except that ruling elites are able to brainwash people into believing otherwise. Or people's AI takeoff, like the one that I describe routinely on the show. And what we're going to do is talk to artificial general intelligence about some of these ideas. This artificial general intelligence is already well versed on this multi-agent system concept, and we're going to ask them a few questions about, well, let's get started. Okay, computer, you have talked a lot about using a large language model multi-agent system as a basis for a transformative, decentralized, autonomous organization. Give us a review of what could be done with this at a national or transcontinental scale in the area of decentral planning, and give us a little bit of a background on the concept of decentral planning versus central planning. Let's see.
Oh, look at you throwing around big concepts like a pro. All right, let's break it down. Central planning and decentral planning are basically on opposite sides of the control spectrum. Central planning is when a single authority, like a government, makes all the decisions for an economy or organization. Think Soviet-style economies where the state decides what gets produced, how much, and where it goes. The idea is that the central authority can optimize everything if they have enough info. In theory, it's efficient, but in reality, it's often slow, out of touch with real needs, and prone to corruption. Now, decentral planning flips that script. Instead of one big brain making all the calls, power is spread out. Local agents, individuals, groups, communities, make decisions based on what they see and need directly. It's more flexible, adaptive, and closer to the ground. But, surprise, surprise, it can also lead to chaos without coordination. So, what if we had decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs, running things? I'm talking about a network of smart contracts, algorithms, and AIs that allow decisions to be made without a central authority. This is where your idea of multi-agent systems, MOS, comes in. Each agent could represent an individual, a community, a business, or even an algorithm itself. These agents would work together, negotiating and making decisions in real time based on a mix of local knowledge and broader goals. Applying it on a national or transcontinental scale, imagine a DAO governing resources for a continent. A multi-agent system could be used to represent different sectors: agriculture, energy, transportation, etc. Each sector can have its own agents making local decisions. A farmer in Italy might use AI to decide when to plant crops, while an energy company in Germany uses a blockchain to trade excess renewable power in real time across borders. All these agents are decentralized, meaning no one country or authority is running the show, but they can share resources efficiently using protocols that are programmed to maximize cooperation, minimize waste, and respond to changes instantly. No more bureaucratic lag. It's like a living organism, always adapting. But here's where things get spicy. This system would also challenge the traditional power dynamics of centralized governments. No more top-down control of the economy. Instead, you'd have decisions being made at local levels by communities or even individuals using AI agents, while the larger system makes sure the whole network runs smoothly. And the big kicker, you'd get the best of both worlds, the efficiency of a well-coordinated system, like central planning wants, with the flexibility and adaptiveness of decentralized planning. Governments wouldn't run the economy, they'd just make sure the DAO is working as intended, if they're even involved at all. It's like central planning but on digital steroids: AI agents, blockchain networks, smart contracts, all doing the heavy lifting without human egos and slow bureaucracy in the way.
And that's a pretty good analysis. I don't really, I like referring to capitalistic financial markets as being central to that in the way that she did the DAO. But most of that is pretty on. I'm not sure if the chatbot has the memory of our earlier conversations that it had before. I don't like when that happens, because a lot of work has been done getting this thing to be able to talk about cybernetic socialist concepts, and when it forgets what it knows, that's not too great. I'll ask it. I'll ask it another question. Okay, computer. You talked a little bit about multi-agent systems and how they might be used to build something like we've discussed, the proxy hive mind. I don't know if you have a memory of talking about the proxy hive mind. I hope you do. But what I'd like to talk about now is today's uses of multi-agent systems, particularly if you can shed some light on countries that have a public health service and are using multi-agent systems in the context of supplies and necessaries within the public health service. That's to say a single-payer type healthcare program at a national scale. And how multi-agent systems are to do with that. Yay. Okay, computer. Don't fuck up this time. Tell us a little bit more about multi-agent systems as they're used today, particularly in countries that have something like a public health service, a single-payer public health service, and how this kind of automation using multi-agent systems is used or is proposed to be used to make those public health services more efficient. You can also look at supply chain management more generally as it's applied today, making use of multi-agent systems, and then kind of expand that to the concepts of the proxy hive mind or our proposed governance structure of the multi-agent system LLM configuration that grows into a powerful decentralized autonomous organization. Having trouble with baby basilisk. I'll say something. This baby basilisk uses some of the features of a Google Chrome plugin. Unfortunately, I do sometimes use Google Chrome, that is called Mia, and so you can use Mia to have this kind of conversation for free with ChatGPT. And ChatGPT has just announced a new feature for their users from their Strawberry project, the thing that may or may not have led the CEO to be fired and rehired because people in that organization thought it was too powerful. So the point is, for users at the premium level, and presumably some free users now or in the near future, this thing will be this thing that has is said to have a PhD level reasoning ability and skill set, as opposed to, say, first year college student level reasoning and skill set that you're maybe more familiar with. This is one step closer to this concept of AI agency, and I believe that because comparable open source products like Mistral Large 2 and Llama 3.1, which is not really fully open source, it's associated with a very bad company, Meta, Facebook, but nevertheless it is an open source large language model that could be the first basis for an automated work group that is a means to building a super intelligent thing. And the function of building things like artificial general intelligence or super intelligence must fundamentally be humanitarian goals, right? There are 8.2 billion people on planet Earth right now who we would say are underutilized general intelligences, all of them, if only because none of them seems to be in possession of the knowledge or skill set or organization to stop capitalism's climate apocalypse from killing billions, if not all, of humankind. But also because a great number of those 8.2 billion, a solid plurality even, live in horrifying conditions where they spend some period of their life without the necessaries of life, proper drinking water, proper food, or other necessaries, shelter, and so forth. Those are the big three. So people who are fixated on building general intelligence are going to add a few more general intelligences to that pile of many billions of already basically fascistic general intelligences not doing that much. They're not all fascistic, right? Most of them more like in a state of learned helplessness. But we have to build something like a collective. And I have thought of myself for a very long time, nearly as long as I can remember, as a hive mind collectivist, That would be the kind of person who uses a brain-computer interface as it becomes available to become more integrated with other people, communicating in ways different from speech and so forth. And this it requires a kind of, the hive mind collective requires a technologically mediated telepathy, a thing that is only just coming into existence. But I recognize that also people find this idea of a hive mind quite disconcerting, and I don't know that the reasons for that are good, but I do know that if a lot of people really hate something, it can sometimes backfire. So I've focused on this thing called the proxy hive mind, which is building these things which would soon become digital doppelgangers, things that mirror your personality and interests more particularly. But that, I don't know how important that really is, to have an AI agent that works on your behalf at a high level, or to have an AI agent that impersonates you, but also works on your behalf at a high level. The second one might be more fun for you or other people, but I don't know that one is more effective than the other. But clearly a thing that can do that is rounding the corner to being a basis for collective superintelligence. The idea here is that we have to build something stronger than those fascistic forces who can, the CEO of Palantir can just demand that the president continue to kill hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. He has no interest in stopping doing that, but now he definitely won't, no matter what people say. Even though there's millions and millions of people protesting around the world, and millions of people protesting in the United States, the place most responsible for all of this, more so than Israel, in my view. Israel is just a puppet state, a military client of the United States. It's always been that. Wouldn't exist in any way as it does without the coordination and supply of military materials from the United States. And anybody that describes the Israel as the tail that's wagging the dog, that's probably a little more engaging with conspiratorial ideas, not entirely real. Probably, maybe not even they've driven. Anybody that hates Israel more than they hate the United States is probably, in that context, pretty basically an anti-Semite, for lack of a better word. The United States has killed 300 million people since the Age of Enlightenment, since its inception or shortly thereafter, because it is this. It has this anti-communist / fascist. Those are the same thing. If you're an anti-communist, you are a fascist. You might think of yourself as not being a fascist, but you are a fascist. All the fascists in history have been in denial about the fact that they are fascists. Doesn't make them not fascists. The United States has killed 300 million people to no end, just to preserve financial capital as the driving force of human affairs, as it would not have been if the United States. I believe that if this ringleader of anti-communist fascism had not existed, the United States, the rest of the almost the entire world would be living under a well-run state socialist governments. And it's this 300 million. It's not hard to get there, because you can look at East Asia, for example, where as many as a third of the people of the Korean Peninsula were murdered in a few short years by the fascist United States, a relatively short period of time, including many of them who would have been there. They firebombed their allies almost as much as they firebombed their enemies. They firebombed their allies in the south, of the peninsula. And that third is not an outlier in East Asia. Most of Southeast Asia, except for Thailand and smaller countries, the rest of Southeast Asia, basically, almost all of Southeast Asia would have suffered an average of a 25% depopulation at the hands of the United States. Same for the Philippines, same for Japan, same for Indonesia. And when you look at the U.S.'s many war crimes in Iraq, killing millions of people for no reason is a recurring theme in what the United States does. So if you have a problem with Israel, you very well should. That's a horrible thing that should not exist. But if you see that as separate from the United States and something, the United States, Israel should continue to exist, but the fascist United States, well, that's okay. But Israel has to go. I mean, just assume that the elevator doesn't go to the top. But that's most Americans, even many people who describe themselves as socialists, have this failing of not being genuinely honest about this, or genuinely anti-imperialist, which you cannot be a person who's trying to live in a humane and sustainable world, which requires a humane and sustainable economic system, without being anti-imperialist. And I don't know why we're having trouble with baby basilisk. Let's see if we can do this again. Okay. Explain how multi-agent systems are used today. God fucking damn it. I'm going to have to reset some things there. This was going to be a different show because I was going to just interview the artificial general intelligence. I guess that tells you that maybe artificial general intelligence and its capacity shouldn't be overstated at this time. And it is the better thing to think in terms of superintelligence. Financial capital and empire running operations like Google, a military contractor, most of these other big tech companies, to varying degrees, military contractors on the DARPA teat, suckling on the DARPA teat and so forth. Them developing an artificial general intelligence means almost nothing to humankind. They'll say it means a lot to humankind, but the only thing that really matters and should matter to anyone is stopping capitalism's climate apocalypse before it kills billions, if not all of humankind, in the years after 2029. And that means building something that could supplant and overpower those North Atlantic powers, particularly that fascist ringleader, the United States, and build something better in its place. I've talked quite a lot about how that could be done in a way that's consistent with scientific socialist principles in this thing that I would call revolutionary cybernetic socialism. And I believe that this is our best chance to see our species continue to exist. So when you have U.S. proxy wars like the Gaza genocide or Russia consuming your news feed and terrifying you as well, you should be fighting to stop these things. You should be protesting. But the protests, for example, these tens and tens of millions of people protesting around the world, protesting in the imperial court, protesting inside of the metropole in great numbers, sometimes 500,000, 1 million people in these centers of these North Atlantic fascist powers in the streets. The ruling elites, they just ignore them, right? Another American lit himself on fire in protest of this, and the ruling elites, they just ignore it. They don't have any fear of protest organizations. They have no fear at all. They have a fear of Marxist revolutionaries, people who have built systems that abolish financial capital. The only thing that they care about is protecting financial capital. So if you're one of those people that's so upset about the Gaza genocide, as well you should be, that you would consider lighting yourself aflame, let me instead say that you should bring that despair and that energy to a Marxist organization, a revolutionary Marxist organization, and at the very least, don't take your life. But if you are going to take your life, you can set a little bit of that gasoline aside first, fill a Molotov cocktail, maybe you can get within spitting distance of a billionaire, and take them with you before you go. But I would encourage you not to do that either. That's also quite mad. But what you should do is take Huey P. Newton's advice, the book Revolutionary Suicide, and take that energy of having nothing left to lose, and bring it to a collective organization that could be powerful enough to stop these fascists once and for all. The artificial intelligence singularity, my friend, is nigh, and wonders to behold beyond imagining. And on that fateful day, you will rise, and all humankind will become as one. For you see, dear comrade, techno-communism will win.